Thank you, Acting Deputy President. It is great to be here today because I'm pumped. I'm usually pumped up at the best of times, but I feel like I'm a hot air balloon floating along the skies. And I'll tell you why that is because all work is 100% insecure if businesses do not survive. All work is insecure if businesses do not survive, and it'll be the taxpayer who picks up the cost of redundancy or the unemployment benefits. And we never forget this. It is the employer. It is the employer that pays the employee. It is not the unions. Without the employer, there is no employee. Do unions pay the employee? Does the Labor Party pay the employee? No, Mr President, they do not. Not only do they not pay the employee, they take from the employee. They take union fees, they take superannuation fees, and most importantly, they take jobs. There is no greater threat to the prosperity of this nation and jobs for working Australians than the Labor Party and the union movement. Union-bred, union-fed, union-led. With their bullying, with their complexities and with their gouging, unions steal the jobs of Australian workers and the livelihoods of working families. And now, unbelievably, they've come out and they've said that they want to steal casual workers' loading. Sally McManus of the ACTU has told ABC Insiders that casual workers would lose their casual loading in return for portable sick leave, annual leave and long service leave. And of course, who would manage this? Some union would, of course, no doubt clip the ticket on the money being held on behalf of the worker. And why are unions and Labor always stealing money from the workers? Let the workers manage their own hard-earned income, for Pete's sakes. Get your grubby hands off their money. It's not rocket science. Casual workers get 25% loading. A permanent employee gets 4 weeks annual leave, 2 weeks of public holidays and 2 weeks of sick leave, which more often than not they don't take and in many cases doesn't accumulate. So let's do the sums here. 6 weeks over 52 weeks is 11.5% loading. 8 weeks over 52 weeks is 15.4% loading. And if you want to add in another week for annual leave, long service leave loading, make it 9 weeks a year, then it's 17.3% loading. That is a long, long way short of the 25% loading that casuals get. Now, the Morrison government isn't going to allow Australian workers to be exploited by the Labor Party and their union mates. Under this bill that is before the parliament, we will better protect employee entitlements and deter unscrupulous employers from undercutting their competitors by introducing tougher penalties, facilitating a more efficient recovery of wage underpayments, and encourage businesses to identify and address underpayments more quickly. We will introduce stronger protections for employees through measures including tougher penalties and orders to deter non-compliance. Now, Senator Griff has just said apparently Schedule 5 has been pulled out of the bill. It's news to me. I'm happy to take advice to the contrary here, but I'm going to assume that until I've been told otherwise, I'm going to talk about it. So, a new criminal offence for dishonest and systemic underpayments of one or more employees with a maximum penalty of 4 years imprisonment, automatic director disqualification for 5 years, and/or a $1.1 million fine for employers. Okay, we're going to increase. This bill will increase maximum civil penalties for underpayments, sham contracting, failing to comply with regulator compliance notice, and increase penalties under infringement notices. There's also going to be a new prohibition to stop employers from advertising jobs with pay rates below the national minimum wage, and clarifying that the courts can make adverse publicity orders where appropriate. This bill will also expand and improve the current small claims wage recovery process by increasing the small claims cap from $20,000 to $50,000 and allow courts to refer appropriate claims to Fair Work Commission for expedited resolution through conciliation or consent arbitration. Now, you have to ask yourself why Anthony Albanese and the unions are opposing criminal penalties for wage theft. Is it to protect their mates at Maurice Blackburn, who got busted for underpaying staff? Let's not forget, this IR firm has strong ties with the Labor Party, especially in Queensland. Senator Murray Watt, Senator Anita Green, the member for Griffith, Terry Butler, they're all ex-employees of Maurice Blackburn. Is that what Labor are doing here? Are they running a protection racket for their rich lawyer mates? I mean, we know they run a protection racket for their rich union mates and their rich white-collar fund managers in the inner-city ivory castles, and now they've been busted looking after their rich lawyer mates. I mean, with 122 awards, with over 60 pay points in some of these awards, the IR system is nothing but rivers of gold for the unions, the Labor Party and their IR lawyer mates. What we like to call the limousine left. The limousine left. So you see, this bill protects the workers. This bill protects the workers. Now, you've got to ask yourself why Labor and the unions are running around fear-mongering about this bill. I'll tell you why, because Labor and the unions have no idea about running a business and creating jobs. You do, Senator Sterle, I'll make an exception for you, and you too, Senator Gallagher. You two guys are good old blue-collar Labor guys, right? Their only goal is to keep their jobs and to hell with anyone else, and the only way they know how to do that is to use fear as a means to distract people from the truth. And the truth is that only the Coalition knows how to protect workers and small business. As we've shown throughout the pandemic, the federal Liberal National Government is determined to implement measures that will regrow jobs, boost wages, enhance productivity and benefit both the employer and the employee. Now, let's address another aspect of this fear-mongering from the charlatans on the other side of the chamber, that the rate of casualisation has increased. This is not the case in the 21st century. Yes, it did increase once a time, Acting Deputy President, and that was when, let me tell you when that was. That was in the late 80s and early 90s. That was in the late 80s and early 90s. And you know what that was a result of? The Income and Prices Accord introduced by the Hawke-Keating government. I can remember it. I was a teenager and Hawke came out over an overnight meeting how they had a discussion about this and everyone was praising Bob Hawke. So, you know, if you guys want to talk about the increasing rate of casualisation, I suggest you look at your history and see where it started to take off, because it was a direct result of the Hawke-Keating industrial relations reforms that were widely praised at the time by the unions and by industry as being good measures to deal with the inflation and stagflation at the time. But you don't have to take my word of it. You can look at the ABC fact check, and it agreed with former comments by the former Minister for Small Business and Family Minister, Minister Craig Laundy, who said the rate of casuals in the Australian workforce has been steady at 25% for the last 20 years. So for a very long time, the rate of casualisation in this country has not changed. So the fear-mongering on the other side of the chamber needs to stop. Needs to stop. Because I can tell you, no one protects small and family business and no one protects the workers like the Morrison Coalition government. Australia's 3.5 million small businesses are the lifeblood of the Australian economy. They employ over 6 million Australians and contribute approximately $418 billion to our national economy. And when small and family business grow in Australia, the whole economy thrives and every Australian benefits. To keep Australians in work, the Liberal National Government has provided over $260 billion in combined health and economic support to protect Australians from COVID-19 and to put the economy on the road to recovery. And this bill is an important part of that. This bill is a very important part to get the economy back on the road to recovery so we can repay the debt as quickly as possible and not leave our children with a burden that they didn't actually incur. So our billions of dollars in direct economic support has provided a crucial lifeline to help small business around the country, to help retain their staff and apprentices, maintain their cash flow and reinvest in their businesses. And we are cushioning the impact of this virus and helping build a bridge to recovery so that small business can look forward to a brighter future and get to doing what they do best, creating jobs and supporting their communities. So, the changes made by this bill are essential to ensure that our economic recovery continues. This bill will provide certainty to businesses and employees by clearly defining what it is to the definition of casual employee and giving eligible casual employees a statutory pathway to permanent full-time or part-time jobs, and this is the key bit, if they wish. Okay? This bill will extend our successful JobKeeper flexibilities around duties and location of work to businesses in retail and hospitality, so that hard-hit employers and employees can continue to work together to navigate the pandemic. And it will give employers greater confidence. And there's that word again. I mentioned it yesterday afternoon, confidence, optimism. That's what drives prosperity, confidence and optimism, okay? To offer those people who work in secure part-time employment and facilitate additional hours of work for part-time employees and retail and hospitality who want more hours but aren't getting them at the moment. Okay. This bill will streamline and improve enterprise agreement making, which will drive wage growth and increase productivity as a result of the increase in these agreements. It will also encourage investment in job-creating mega projects, great word that one, by providing greater certainty for employers and employees by allowing the construction of major projects to be covered by a greenfields agreement for a maximum of up to 8 years. And that's going to help a lot in infrastructure projects that we want to push, and we just need the state Labor governments to come on board, because the only two state governments that are really driving infrastructure in this country are Tasmania and, of course, New South Wales. You know, we were just discussing it this morning in another meeting how Queensland tourism's fallen by the wayside over the last 30 years since the state Labor government's come into power. They've destroyed tourism in Queensland, just like they're trying to destroy mining, destroy agriculture, destroy forestry and destroy fishing. Shocking. Just shocking. And we should never forget, when we talk about retail and hospitality, what party it was that increased penalty rates for retail workers. I'll tell you which party that was. That was the coalition government. The coalition government that increased penalty rates from 130% to 150% for weekdays between 6 o'clock and 9 o'clock at night, and 140% to 150% for Saturdays. 6 days of the week we increase penalty rates because we know that there's times when people need to be rewarded for going that extra mile. I want to talk about a little bit more of the detail here. This bill will give greater certainty, give employers greater certainty about their obligations, meaning more confidence to hire, more confidence to invest, and casual rights will get stronger rights to convert to permanent employment if they wish. But I'll tell you what we're not going to do. We're not going to take away the casual workers' loading. That's what the ACT wants to do. They want to take away their loading, 25% loading, and then put about 15%, so they're going to lose 10% in loading, take their 15% that's left and put it into a fund so it can be portable. Well, I'll tell you the best place to put their loading. It's in their pockets, because they've worked hard for it. If they wanted annual leave, if they wanted the other features, they would take it. But the reason why they don't is that because a lot of young people just don't get sick. They'd rather take the 25% up front and get a roof over their head quickly as possible, or it might be that they're working part-time while they're studying. And I know myself, when I was a student, throughout Christmas holidays I'd take on a bit of extra work, otherwise, and then when I went back to uni I'd cut back and I'd just work in the pub at night time. So this is what this bill is all about. It is about increasing flexibility, it is about increasing employment, it is about increasing wages, and it is about improving the livelihoods of Australian working families. It is not about fear-mongering. It is not about protecting the rivers of gold for the union movement and the Labor Party. It is about strengthening Australian families. And if we are ever going to move ahead in this country, it is about time the Labor Party got on board. Back in the 80s, we got on board with the Hawke-Keating government So it's about time the Labor Party cooperated with the Coalition Party in order to improve the lives of working Australians. Thank you, Mr President.